Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Priyakar, congratulations on your nomination, and it's a really important position. And I think our country needs to get back to trusting science, right? There's a lot on both sides of the aisle who kind of claim, oh, they're the party of science, and I think we just got to go with the facts and the science, and you're going to be critical in that perspective. You know, there's the International Arctic Research Center is the result of strong international scientific collaborations as it relates to the Arctic. And one of the things that frustrates us a little bit in Alaska is you have Arctic research that seems almost purposely not to take place in the Arctic. And we think that it should take place in the Arctic. So will you help us prioritize Arctic science, of which there's a lot, and a lot of interest, actually taking place in Alaska that has great research institutions that in my mind are some of the best in the world, and live it. They live it. Yeah. And this is both our university systems, but also our native people who have traditional knowledge on Arctic issues and science that maybe isn't the Western PhD knowledge, but time and time again is proven to be, in many ways, smarter and more predictable as it relates to Arctic science. So can I get your commitment on that, and do you have any views on both those issues that I raised?
Senator Sullivan, it's wonderful to meet you. I look forward to a chance to dive in deeper with you. I think we're scheduled to meet later. Thank you for this issue. Thank you for the work that you've done in this area. You do have my commitment. I wanted to say that when I served at DARPA, I became aware of the issues in the Arctic and the changing nature of the Arctic. And of course, at that time, I was thinking about it from a national security lens, huge implications from national security perspectives, but it's much broader than that. And this is an area that if I'm confirmed, I would want to learn a great deal more about. I very much appreciate your emphasis on local knowledge, which seems critical to a problem like this.
Critical. Good. Let me turn to the issue of the energy sector, oil and gas, and then I want to talk about emissions. I'll start with the emissions. I have this chart that I like to trot out a lot, and take a look at that. This has been fact-checked, and but you know there's a movement on some of the climate issues to say, all right, well, we're just going to get rid of all hydrocarbons, right? I think John Kerry reflects that the best in this administration. It's very non-scientific based. There's no country in the world that has gone from, for example, power generation by coal to wind and solar. No one's done that in the world. No major economy in the world has done that, right? The transition has been generally coal-fired power generation to natural gas. And no country in the world exhibits that more than us. And what that does, it has actually benefited the world in terms of emissions. What do I mean by that? Take a look at this chart. These are facts. The U.S. is the leader since 2005 on reducing emissions, almost by 15%. That's a fact. Okay? As you know, India, China, I mean, these countries are going through the roof on emissions. When I ask very knowledgeable people, and you're one, why do you think that happened? Why do you think that happened? Why are we the leader for the last 15 years? You never read about it in the press, but we are. More than Europe, more than Japan, more than Germany, certainly more than China and India. Do you have an answer? Do you know why that happened? You think it was comprehensive, smart EPA regulations that made that happen?
Senator, I had the opportunity to have an exchange on this matter with Senator Cruz a few minutes ago. Okay. And he reminded me that natural gas had played a critical role. Critical. And I've seen, I was remembering the chart that I know from the EIA that addresses exactly that issue, and I'm happy to discuss that further with you.
Okay, so you know then the reason this chart and the reason we're the leader in the world by far, John Kerry, take note, is because of the revolution in the production of American clean-burning natural gas. Isn't that correct?
Senator Sullivan, that is an
You're going to be the
important
top scientist in
contribution.
America. You need to know the answer to that question.
That is an important contribution. I would like to add that it's not the only component
It's not the only one,
in that
but
progress.
it's the driving factor.
And I would also like to note, if I might, that again, back to the point that as we learn more things, we need to adapt. I think what we're learning now about some of the concerns about natural gas and leakage issues actually puts in question how much of a contribution we've made. So I don't want to take anything away
like
from
John
that
Kerry,
contribution.
Which is not, seriously, this is a serious issue, right? And I don't, the John Kerry talking point on leakage, you know, the guy's not a scientist. You're a scientist, right? You need to be able to answer this question, right? This is primarily because of the production of natural gas in America. That is a fact, okay? You're a scientist. You can't quibble and give me the John Kerry answer about leakage. And so there is leakage. I'm not saying there isn't. But the reason we're the leader in the world is the production of natural gas. And the reason I'm mentioning this, the world's going to need more American natural gas, particularly in the aftermath of the brutal invasion of Ukraine by Russia. Our allies in Europe, our allies in Asia need it. We need to be able to say that strategically. You're from DARPA, but then also say, and there will be benefits from global emissions that relate to that. If every country in the world had this profile, you think the world would have a better chance on reducing emissions?
Senator, there's no question that the great growth, a lot of that is from coal-fired plants. And I want to be very clear that I think it is important to acknowledge the role that natural gas has played. So I do agree with you on that. And again, in my view, having a complete understanding of all the components is important because I think we all understand that those emissions come from every sector of our economy. You and I are talking right now primarily about electricity, but there's a lot more that's going on. So I want to affirm your point about natural gas, but I'd also like to put down a marker that I think there are many other dimensions of this very complex challenge.
There's no doubt there are other dimensions, but the driving force here. Mr. Chairman, if I can ask one more question, and it's an important one. We want to make sure in my state on resource development, again, science and data are critical. Alaska, for example, we're the superpower of seafood. Almost 2/3 of all seafood harvested in America comes from Alaska's waters, 2/3. And we do that because we have the best data and science on managing our fish stocks. Sometimes it takes discipline to tell fishermen, hey, you can't fish here, you got to limit your harvest. So I just want you to commit to me on continuing to make sure we get data on that, but also data in the energy sector. We have an area called the National Petroleum Reserve of Alaska. A couple years ago, White House officials, scientific officials in the Obama administration came out and said, there's no more real oil in NPRA. I was the DNR commissioner at the time. We knew that was a factually inaccurate statement. So you had science from a White House being used on energy that was clearly politicized, right? How do I know that was wrong? Because that part of Alaska is seeing a huge renaissance in exploration and discovery of massive amounts of energy that we have in America that we need. So I just want your commitment to make sure we're not going to politicize science in any way, shape, or form, particularly as it relates to energy, oil, gas, fishing, climate change, straight up on science. Can you give me that commitment? I look forward to having a further discussion in my office on these.
Senator, yes, I will commit to you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you.